On the day my husband, Lu Shiqing, passed away, the world was flooded with his passionate farewell letter, Xuani, finally buried together, to sleep side by side for 1,000 years. Regrettably, I am not Xuani, I am the first wife whom Lu Shiqing regarded as a stain in his life. I was not allowed to appear in the living room to meet guests and could only claim to be his cousin when others were present. After having labored half my life, I returned to being 18. Resolutely cancelling the plane ticket that would have accompanied him to his post in France. In this life, the stubborn Su Yujun would no longer cling to him. She also had things she desperately wanted to protect. Madam, are you sure you want to cancel your ticket? It's very hard to get a ticket now. You might not be able to book another. The ticket agent kindly reminded me. I smiled brightly. No matter how hard it is, I no longer want it. What doesn't belong to me is ultimately just an obsession. Alright, here is your cancellation receipt and refund. I took it, looking over the thin receipt again and again. After a while, I took off the locket necklace from around my neck and opened it. Inside was a black and white photo of Lu Shiqing. A young man in a suit and leather shoes, his face turned sideways, hair slicked back, with a high nose and deep-set eyes, exuding a commanding presence. In my previous life, there were too many things I didn't understand. I couldn't understand the young man who once saw my bound feet, his eyes red as he applied medicine to me. Later, on our wedding night, he left me for his study and coldly said, Yujun, I could never share a bed with a woman who has bound feet. I didn't understand. The young man who kept my photo in his locket over his heart during his first trip abroad for studies. Later, when he was about to leave for France, looking at my swollen, tearful eyes, he coldly said, Yujun, even if my eyes were cried blind, I wouldn't take you with me. Eventually, I thought, as he said, a delicate lady from a good family, bound by traditional foot binding, was just a remnant of feudalism not fit for the public eye. I don't blame him, I blame myself. Thus, I sold the embroidery shop left by my parents to accompany him across the seas. He mingled with politicians and nobles, always busy with public duties, never allowing me to step into the living room. I learned to dress fashionably, even unbinding my feet, enduring excruciating pain to learn dancing, but when I appeared at the banquet, I saw him dancing one dance after another with a dazzling woman, his arm around her waist, his eyes held a depth of affection I hadn't seen in a long time. When others asked who I was, he coldly replied, a cousin from home, and that woman was the wealthy Miss Tang Xuani. They both worked in the Foreign Affairs Department, one a rising diplomat, the other a well-born etiquette officer. His secretary said that the diplomat, who usually kept his distance from women, had found his first love, yet every night, it was I, his so-called a cousin, who shared tender moments with him. That day, I touched my stomach and smiled gently. Shiqing, we're going to have a child, I thought. Surely now he must see me as his wife, but Lu Shiqing, who was writing at his desk, trembled with his pen in hand. He looked up icily and said, get an abortion. Abortion could kill a person, he scoffed. People die in plane crashes too. Does that mean you see others not flying? Clutching my stomach, I felt a chill envelop my body, stubbornly refusing to utter a word. After a long silence, he finally spoke softly, my parents have written saying they miss you. Xiao Jun, when you return home, please take care of them for me. It was all to protect the child, and for that faint, unreasonable hope, the hope that after becoming a devoted wife and mother, he would cherish me. I returned to the deep courtyard of his family home, caring for his parents and raising our child. However, when war erupted, I was forced to flee from place to place with the entire family. I picked up embroidery to make ends meet, my fingertips pricked and punctured by the needles. Yet, in the newspapers, there he was, looking dashing as he gave interviews. At his side, Tang Xiani clung to his arm, all smiles, the caption underneath, identifying them as a couple of diplomats. Stung more sharply than any needle, worried about my parents, Lu Shiqing hurried back to our country, but at that very moment, Tang Xiani died in a bombing in Paris. The news hit him like a bolt of lightning, and he collapsed into a chair. For the decades that followed, all he offered me was cold indifference. He ignored even our child. In his final years, bedridden, I cared for him with my own aged hands, accompanying him on his last journey. Yet, in his clenched hand, until the end, was a necklace holding not a picture of me but of his long-deceased first love. She had never given him anything, dying in her prime, yet she lived on forever in his heart, and I, who had labored half my life and loved him deeply, did not receive a single mention in his will. Fortunately, there was still half a month before the plane took off. There was still time. I discarded the photo and folded the ticket refund, placing it inside the necklace instead. Back at the mansion where Lu Shiqing and I had lived together, I told the old butler that the embroidery shop was not for sale and instructed him to prepare a set of embroidery frames. A fire 7 years ago had taken my parents and brought our 300-year-old Su family embroidery shop to its knees. In a previous life, a famous actor from Shanghai had requested a costume for Farewell My Concubine and had sought the best craftsmanship from various shops. I had wanted to try but gave up because I went abroad with Lu Shiqing. Now, securing the favor of a renowned actor was crucial for the revival of the long-silent embroidery shop. A car horn sounded outside. Looking up, I saw Lu Shiqing walking in. He was dressed in a shirt and a cashmere vest. His trousers neatly covering his long legs, his features were handsome, and a faint smile played on his lips. Tang Xianyi, in a delicate lace dress, clung to his arm. Shiqing, I haven't had enough of the dance at the party. Would you dance some more with me? She asked sweetly, her fair face flushed with the glow of alcohol. Taking his hand, she twirled into his embrace. They stepped inside, laughing, but stopped abruptly upon seeing me. I was stunned. In my previous life, I had shut myself away, spending days learning French, so I hadn't known that they were already so close. I put down my needlework, stood up, and decided to leave. Tang Xuanyi blocked my way with an outstretched hand. Shiqing, who is this? Lu Shiqing's face was stern, his prominent nose casting a harsh shadow. She's my cousin. Rather than waiting for him to speak, I decided to introduce myself. A flash of surprise crossed Lu Shiqing's face before he responded softly. Yet Tang Xuanyi was relentless. Tugging at my sleeve and covering her mouth with a giggle, she said, Shiqing, is this the cousin you're taking to France? Aren't you afraid she might end up as an exhibit in the Louvre, dressed in a traditional embroidered cheongsam? She regarded me as an old relic. I brushed her hand away. She pointed at the hem of my dress as if she had seen a street rat, exclaiming in shock, my God, does your family still practice foot binding? Isn't that foul? Lu Shiqing, arm around her shoulders, walked on, his tone indifferent. Don't touch her, you'll dirty your hands. I paused in my steps. They thought they could mock me freely in French, assuming I wouldn't understand, but would their condescending gestures not hurt me, even if I hadn't learned French in my past life? Later that night, Lu Shiqing came to my room, with a bunch of lilies in hand. He naturally placed them in the vase on the table. Seeing me sitting by the embroidery frame, threading a silver needle and ignoring him, he settled himself down and said coldly, Su Yujun, I'm giving you these flowers, glad that you understand your place. You pushed me to the edge with your threats until I agreed to take you to France. Don't expect anything beyond that. I didn't even look up. Are you done? If so, please leave. Suddenly, he grabbed my wrist. Lu Shiqing looked down at the needle in my fingers, his brows furrowed. The embroidery studio is going to be sold. Why continue embroidering? It'd be better to learn some French phrases, even as a cousin. Don't embarrass me. His strong perfume tickled my nose. I replied lightly, understood. I was unusually compliant, no longer as tearful as before. Lu Shiqing's expression softened. Tomorrow, we'll go to Anha Mall to buy some clothes and jewelry. I'll pay for everything. You can't possibly go to France looking so rustic and vulgar, can you? I looked at the pleated skirt embroidered with blue and white designs, meticulously stitched by my mother, so elegant and exquisite, but such is human nature. When he doesn't love you, even if you are dressed in a bridal gown, it is still terribly wrong. I responded indifferently and waited for Lu Shiqing to leave. I opened the necklace at my chest, looking at the date on the return ticket. Only 14 days left. Just endure a bit longer. I didn't want to cause any trouble before the flight. My uncle and aunt would surely object, perhaps even causing another argument with Lu Shiqing. If that were to prevent him from going abroad, it would be even more troublesome. A few days later, after designing a phoenix pattern, I hurried out to buy fabric. Unexpectedly, I ran into Lu Shiqing and his group in the bustling market. Among a group of youths dressed in Western fashion, Lu Shiqing stood out with his tall stature. Lu family's little sister, we're going to take a commemorative photo. Join us. Tang Xuanyi stepped forward and took my hand. She doesn't like these modern fancies. Leave her out. Lu Shiqing had a restrained smile on his face, but his eyes were slightly dark and fixed on me. I knew he didn't want me there. Just like before, he didn't allow me to be seen in the hall when guests arrived. Tang Xuanyi smiled sweetly and still pulled me along with her. I really didn't understand why it was necessary to drag me along for a group photo with colleagues from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It wasn't until Tang Xuanyi whispered in my ear with a laugh, a parasite clinging to Shiqing's household, refusing to divorce and insisting on following him to France. You lack self-awareness, let me find some for you. I turned my head to look at her radiant smile, momentarily at a loss for words. In the photo studio, Tang Xuanyi pulled Lu Shiqing to take a photo together, against a bright red backdrop, one in a dark black suit, the other in a shoulder-bearing black dress. They were inexplicably well-matched. The onlookers teased, anyone would think you two were taking wedding photos, one diplomat and one protocol officer. You two really uphold the image of our foreign ministry. The photographer also cheerfully directed, sir, move a bit closer to the lady. Yes, a little closer. I stood there, somewhat dazed, so it was in this moment that the photo Lu Shiqing kept inside the locket on his necklace was taken. It turned out he had already shifted his affections to someone else so early. Lu Shiqing, with his affable look, scanned the crowd. Don't joke around, Xuanyi might feel embarrassed. After speaking, he subtly tucked a stray lock of hair behind Tang Xuanyi's ear. Tang Xuanyi turned her head to ask me, her smile sweet, little sister, do you think I and your brother match well? Lu Shiqing squinted his eyes, a silent warning. I inexplicably recalled the wedding night, how the girl was full of joy, thinking she had finally found her match, yet amid all the festivity, she spent a cold, lonely night alone. That night, the pendulum of the Western clock swung all night. She had thought that the most beautiful evening had just ended like that. I forced a smile and spat out 2 words, well matched, the me from a past life, clinging stubbornly to that youthful, naive infatuation. Was truly laughable. I clenched the necklace at my chest. Just 10 more days. In 10 days, I could leave all this behind. As the camera clicked that moment, I walked away. From then on, I slept only 2 or 3 hours a day, working tirelessly in front of the embroidery screen. My fingertips dancing swiftly. Even when my fingers were pricked by the needle, I did not stop. Only one night, I took a break to watch Yensheng's play. I was a fan of the theater and had spent a lot of money through my butler to secure a front row seat. The leading lady on stage was enchanting and graceful, with a stunning singing voice. In the end, she dramatically took her own life on stage, her exotic, seductive eyes closed before me. My heart suddenly trembled. In a past life, during the chaos of war, it was this person who fell in front of me. Even as blood flowed from her chest, she smiled intensely. I owed your father a life, now I repay it. And thus the cycle completes. After stepping out of the carriage, the light was on in my room on the 2nd floor of the mansion. Sensing something was wrong, I hurried upstairs. Upon entering, the door was wide open, and clothes along with the contents of the vanity were scattered all over the floor. Tang Xuanyi was disdainfully tossing aside a pair of 3-inch golden lotus shoes. What are you doing? I marched forward and pushed her away fiercely, my whole body trembling. She stumbled into the corner of the desk, clutching the back of her head as she stood up, her face filled with disbelief. How dare you hit me? How could you? In her anger, she grabbed a vase and hurled it at my head. Lu Shiqing appeared at the doorway. Xuanyi, what's going on? With eyes red, Tang Xuanyi complained. Look, I picked out so many clothes and jewelry for your sister and even helped tidy up her mess, and she pushed me. Only then did I notice the pile of shopping bags in the corner. Lu Shiqing coldly addressed me. Su Yujun, you were the one insistent on going to France. You can't dress yourself properly. Xuanyi kindly chose for you, and you turn around and bully her. I looked down at my soaked clothes and touched the wound on my forehead, my voice chilling. Who asked for her help? Also, these are not trash. I pointed to the hairpin scattered on the floor. This hairpin is. I paused. It was a gift from Lu Shiqing when he was 15, but it seemed no longer important. He couldn't see how I cherished these items now strewn across the floor. He couldn't see the swelling on my forehead or my disheveled appearance. What was the point in saying these things? I issued an order for her to leave. I'll accept the gift, Miss Tang, but please refrain from entering my room without permission in the future. But Tang Xuanyi was relentless. Shiqing, I tried to be kind, and I got hit, and your sister didn't even apologize. She pointed at the necklace on my chest. I've given her so many things. Asking for this old necklace isn't too much, is it? In that moment, I understood why she was so generous. She must have known the significance of this necklace and the same to take it. I clutched the necklace tightly, refusing to let go. No, this is where I draw the line. Now, to me, it symbolized a new beginning. Lu Shiqing stepped forward, his tall figure imposingly trapping me in a corner. Yujun, this is the one thing you cannot covet. I shook my head. This has nothing to do with you, he scoffed, then handed over. Just as he reached out for it, I whispered, Shiqing, what if your parents knew? He paused, a look of disgust flickering across his face. Is it fun for you to always use them as a threat? I breathed a sigh of relief. Once they left, I immediately asked the butler for the keys and locked the door. Fortunately, the embroidery was undamaged. Suppressing my shock, I continued to embroider. 5 more days. The day Lu Shiqing leaves would coincide with the day Yensheng selects the embroidery. The night before the 4th day of their departure was the anniversary of my parents' death. That night, I slept uneasily, haunted by nightmares of my past life, waking up groggy and feverish in the morning. I asked the butler, where has the young master gone? The butler looked troubled. The young master didn't come home last night. I nodded. He usually accompanied me on the anniversary of the death. But it was fine if he didn't. Feeling really dizzy, I went back to bed and fell asleep again. In a daze, I heard someone enter the room. Shiqing, kiss me. Not here. Let's go to my room. Why? She's not here anyway. I know. That woman is your wife, isn't she? Shiqing, do you want her or me? At the door, Lu Shiqing pinned Tang Xuanyi against the wall, held her face, and kissed her, chuckling cryptically. What do you think, my dear lady? Marrying her was only because her father saved my mother from a fire. Otherwise, do you think I would marry someone who can't even recognize all 24 letters of the alphabet? Tang Xuanyi clung tighter to his waist, her smooth and delicate shoulders covered in kiss marks. Her fingers twirled his tie, her voice sickeningly sweet. Then hurry up, I was so drunk last night, I can hardly remember. Take advantage of her being out at the cemetery, we can have some fun. I really wasn't in the mood for such a spectacle. I coughed loudly. At the same time, the butler knocked on the door. Madam, the medicine is ready, please have some. The two looked embarrassed. I got up without glancing at them, opened the door, and took the medicine from the butler. Lu Shiqing then asked, "Are you sick?" I took a spoonful of the medicine, the bitterness furrowing my brow. "Please leave, both of you, you've dirted my sight." Lu Shiqing moved forward. But Tang Xianyi tugged at his sleeve, biting her lip. She looked aggrieved. "Shiqing, I'm sick too. I drank too much last night and still feel dizzy." Lu Shiqing anxiously touched her forehead, checked her temperature, and sighed in relief. "I'll take you to the guest room to rest." It was a long while before Lu Shiqing returned. He touched his lips lightly, coughing twice. "Miss Tang, after all, is a guest. What did you hear?" Holding a silver needle, I replied nonchalantly. "I only woke up when the butler came in." "Why, did something happen?" Relieved, he moved closer, wanting to touch my forehead. "When did you get sick? Why didn't you say anything?" I stepped back to avoid him. "Cousin, you're overstepping." He withdrew his hand, his expression darkening, and he left. Feeling slightly better, I asked the driver to take me to the cemetery alone. Lu Shiqing didn't deserve to be there. The next day, I ran into Tang Xianyi arguing with the butler. "Shiqing has allowed it. Why are you, a mere servant, stopping me?" The old butler wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Miss Su has always been in charge of the mansion's finances." I asked only to find out that they were planning a farewell party for Lu Shiqing's reassignment to France, since cousin has agreed. "Naturally Miss Tang can use it." Tang Xianyi flashed a triumphant smile, extended her ostrich feather fan, and patted the old butler on the shoulder. "Whoever Mr. Lu loves is the lady of this mansion." She then gracefully left. The old butler warned me, "Miss, this is too improper. Miss Tang is just an outsider, whereas you are the one engaged to Mr. Lu." I smiled faintly, indifferent. The next day, I understood just how reasonable it was for Lu Shiqing to fall in love with Tang Xuanyi. Tang Xuanyi grew up in a Western atmosphere, a wealthy young lady. She was haughty, as everything she desired was readily provided for her. Yet she also perfectly matched the image of the wife Lu Shiqing had hoped for. Within a day, the living room was transformed, exquisite Western oil paintings, gold-rimmed dinnerware, and a crystal champagne tower. Lu Shiqing, dressed in a woolen suit picked out by her, sat in the main seat. At this moment, though he had just begun to show his potential, a promising future awaited him, and he was the focus of government attention. Under his calm, sword-like eyebrows shone eyes bright as fire. Tang Xuanyi, in a white satin evening gown, was the epitome of elegance and grace, hosting guests like a lady of the house. The butler spoke to me about these matters. The next day, I was packing my luggage. The butler's face was creased with worry. "Miss, why don't you speak softly to the young master? Whenever you used to cry, the young master would immediately come to comfort you. If all else fails, speak to the old master and the old madam." After all these years of affection, and with the young master ascending to high status, you must seize the opportunity. The butler had watched us grow up, and I knew he felt sorry for me, but a lifetime of 60 years in my past life taught me. I softly spoke, "Changed heart is like quicksand, impossible to grasp." At that moment, Lu Shiqing walked in through the door. He glanced at me and said, "Don't pack too much luggage, we can buy more when we get there." His expression was relaxed, seemingly in a good mood. He walked straight to the bookshelf and picked out a French beginner's book. "How are you doing with it? Have you learned to greet yet?" I looked at him, somewhat puzzled. Lu Shiqing had a natural talent for languages, fluent in several, during his time at the church school. The principal personally praised him as the most outstanding youth since the school's founding. In my previous life, I had asked him to teach me. He was cold and distant, not only refusing to teach but also mocking me. Recalling that, to avoid revealing anything, I still responded with a few polite phrases. Lu Shiqing nodded. "Since you insist on following me, show some effort." He said this as his gaze fell on an embroidery frame, though he said nothing more. On the last day before I went to the site of the embroidery workshop that had burned down years ago, the chill of early spring and the cool drizzle, holding an oil paper umbrella, I quietly watched the overgrown vacant lot. Memories flashed back. One moment, I was 7 years old, hiding under the embroidery frame with Lu Shiqing, secretly eating candy. Another, my mother was pressing me in front of the embroidery frame, warning me not to expect dinner until my embroidery was finished. Then, my father holding me as he felt new fabrics, asking if there was any I liked. The coachman kindly suggested, "Miss, this place is not auspicious, let's leave." It used to be a well-known embroidery workshop. Such a pity, a fire killed who knows how many. If we stay too long, we might attract something unclean. I wiped the corner of my eye. Softly, I said in my heart, "Father, mother, this time I won't leave, I'll stay right here." He turned to the coachman and said, "Let's go." Upon arriving at the mansion, the butler, holding an umbrella, came to greet us. "Young madam," he began, his expression anxious, hesitating as if he had more to say. I lifted the hem of my dress and stepped over the threshold, reminding him, "Butler Lu, you got it wrong again." In that instant, As I looked up, my pupils constricted. On the hall table, the embroidery was cut into shreds. Tang Xuanyi was holding scissors, about to snip through the slender neck of a phoenix. "Stop," I shouted. Feeling a rush of blood to my head, I hurried forward, tripping over my own feet and falling to the ground. As if she hadn't seen me, Tang Xuanyi cut off the phoenix's head and asked Lu Shiqing, who was sitting on the sofa reading a newspaper, "Shiqing, how about using this to make a handbag? I like it." I got up, furiously knocked the scissors from her hand, and clutched the ruined phoenix head to my chest. "Why must you take what belongs to others?" I cried. Tears streaming down as I looked at the remnants of the phoenix on the floor. Tang Xuanyi stood up and stepped back, her lips curling. "You're crazy, it's just a piece of fabric, there's plenty more in the stores." I glared at her fiercely, walked up, and ripped the newspaper from Lu Shiqing's hands. "Why didn't you stop her? She may not understand." "But how can you not?" I screamed. He calmly removed his glasses and began cleaning them, lifting his thin eyelids. His indifference was palpable. "It was a gift. I'm leaving for France tomorrow. These things, they're not important." I trembled all over. The childhood friend who once treasured a single embroidered handkerchief had changed beyond recognition. He allowed others to destroy what I cherished. I slapped Lu Shiqing across the face, emphasizing each word. "To you, I'm no longer important either." Holding his reddening cheek, his eyes smoldered with anger, and after a moment, he forced a smile. "Su Yujun, have you learned to play hard to get?" I remained silent, suppressing all my emotions. I calmly asked the butler for a wooden box and packed the tattered fabric inside. As I walked to the door, someone grabbed my shoulder. "The rain is getting heavy. Where are you going?" I shrugged off the hand, took an umbrella next to the door, and walked straight into the rain. Behind me, Lu Shiqing's voice was low and deep. "Su Yujun, if you keep this up, perhaps it's better not to take you along. See the young madam out." He paused, realizing his slip of the tongue, and added dismissively, "Let her make a scene." I clenched my skirt tightly, waiting for the judgment from the high platform of the stage. On a carved throne, a handsome man in a dark scholar's robe carelessly flipped through the pieces of fabric with his slender fingers. He looked up at me with his phoenix eyes and said, "Miss Su, I don't deal in scraps." My heart sank, and I discreetly wiped my eyes with the handkerchief in my hand. I stood up and bowed. "Sorry for the disturbance. So, come back in 10 days with an intact phoenix?" I suddenly looked up and saw the man's cunning smile. I knelt and kowtowed. I thanked him for his help today and for saving my life in a past life, and for my father's past kindness to Yan Sheng, which brought about today's fate. I sewed day and night. This time, I moved straight into the new embroidery house, a narrow little house that had been vacant for a long time. Before I passed out, I heard a series of hurried knocks on the door. When I woke up, the last person I wanted to see was right by my side. Lu Shiqing frowned and asked, "Where did you run off to? Do you know how long I drove around looking for you?" "The flight is tomorrow. Stop causing trouble." I was extremely tired. "Lu Shiqing, I'm not going." The air fell into a dead silence. Lu Shiqing touched my forehead and said, "You're delirious." I pushed his hand away. "No, I'm not." His gaze fell on the necklace at my chest, and he scoffed coldly. "Su Yujun, don't think I don't know what you're planning. Don't go to my parents and play the victim. If it weren't for your father saving my mother in the fire, I would never have married you in this lifetime. I will take you to France as you wish. Just behave yourself and stop making a fuss. I'll come to pick you up tomorrow morning." The morning the plane was supposed to take off, Lu Shiqing arrived at the embroidery house as promised, but didn't see the eagerly awaited figure he was hoping for. On the attic bed, the messy quilt indicated that the person who left was in a hurry. He punched the beam fiercely. Did she think that by disappearing, she could make him stay? Su Yujun was still the same, clinging to her childish stubbornness, refusing to grow up. He left the embroidery house and instructed the driver to go to the Lu family's old house. Su Yujun must have gone to beg her parents not to let him leave. "Why didn't Yujun come with you?" After his mother asked this, Lu Shiqing scrutinized her expression carefully. Only after confirming she wasn't deceiving him did he calmly reply, "She's ill." He bid his parents farewell, maintaining his composure throughout. It wasn't until he returned to the car and trembled as he opened the suitcase on the back seat that his facade cracked. It was the luggage Su Yujun had prepared: pearl hairpins, a music box, a pocket watch. Each item was so familiar, all gifts he had once given her. He had thought that Yujun loved him too much, which is why she carried them with her, but on closer inspection, they were all gifts, not a single piece of clothing. Lu Shiqing's face darkened as he ordered the driver, "Go to the police station." He would go to great lengths to find Su Yujun. The driver looked troubled. "Young master, it's almost time for your appointment with Miss Tang." Lu Shiqing glanced at his watch. Only 3 hours left until the plane took off. He took off his glasses and massaged his aching brow before scoffing at himself. He almost fell for her ploy. Wasn't this what she wanted to see? To watch him frantically search for her and then miss the departure time? "Go pick up Miss Tang." As they approached the airplane's door, Tang Xuanyi looped her arm through his, looked up, and smiled. "Shiqing, Do you remember the Le Café du Commerce near our school, where we met during our study abroad? He forced a smile. I remember. He should be happy, but as the old city that carried all his youthful memories grew distant, it felt as though a piece had been carved out of his heart. He covered the birthmark on the back of his hand. The burning sensation from Suyojuin's tears that had fallen on it seemed to linger still. Everything was Suyojuin's fault. 8 days later. Amidst the blind judging, my embroidery stood out. When Yansheng invited me to the high floor of the opera house and said those words, I cried tears of joy. Then everything spun around me. I was too tired. When I woke up again, I thanked Yansheng and went to the Liu family's old mansion. In the grand hall of the old mansion, Mr. Liu's teacup fell to the ground with a clang. Mrs. Liu came forward to help me up from my knees. Yujun, did Shirqing bully you? Mr. Liu angrily said. I will write a letter to call him back right now. I shook my head. Yujun realizes that she and Shirqing are no longer of one heart. Yujun is sorry for the 7 years of care from uncle and aunt. I didn't want Mr. and Mrs. Liu to know about the entanglement between Shirqing and me. I had already understood clearly. Shirqing was good in every aspect, but he just shouldn't be my husband, that's all. It took a few days for Mr. and Mrs. Liu to accept. And they finally acknowledged me as their adopted daughter. I wonder what Shirqing's reaction would be when he finds out that I really became his sister. He must feel relieved. 17. When I received the first letter from Shirqing, I had already restarted the Su family embroidery workshop and just took a big order. Mrs. Liu brought out the letter at the dinner table, the urgent letter stamped with the embassy seal, and a plane ticket. Mrs. Liu took my hand. Yujun, Shirqing is waiting for you to go. I was in a daze. Why would Shirqing want me to go? I didn't open the letter nor take the plane ticket. Mother, I am your daughter now. Mrs. Liu's eyes reddened, but she smiled. It's Shirqing who doesn't deserve you. 18. I saw Shirqing again 2 months later, after the curtain fell. The young actor invited me upstairs. Yansheng had removed his stage makeup, but was still wearing his costume. His long hair was loosely draped, lazily leaning on the royal chair. Seeing me, he got up and smiled. I really like this outfit. I was stunned, dazzled by his beauty. It took a while before I replied, as long as you like it. After a month, Yansheng mentioned a business I was recently discussing. That boss, he happens to be a personal friend of mine. I firmly refused. Yansheng had already repaid his debt to my father in his previous life. Besides, I am not really a sheltered girl, having been exposed to so much from a young age following my parents. We played chess until late in the evening. And then Yansheng walked me to the door. Yujun, hearing him call me, I looked up. It was Shirqing. He stood at the street corner under a black umbrella, dressed in a beautiful white uniform with gold tassels and a badge on his collar, as if he had rushed here. But wasn't he abroad? Yujun, since when have you become so close to an actor? Shirqing stepped forward and grabbed my wrist, pulling me into his embrace. I pushed him away. The usually strong man was actually pushed away by me. Stumbling a few steps before steadying himself, I then noticed the bloodshot eyes and dark circles under his eyes. Please, keep it appropriate. We have no relation anymore. Shirqing's gaze darkened, glancing at Yansheng standing quietly under the eaves. Because of him, when did you two meet? Yansheng simply smiled, ignoring him. Miss Su, your car has arrived. I nodded my thanks, not wanting to entangle further with Shirqing. He suddenly rushed forward, pinning me against the car door. He grabbed the necklace at my chest. With a sinister smile, he asked, does he know that the necklace you wear over your heart holds my picture? I didn't get a chance to reply. Yansheng stepped forward, pulling Liu Shirqing off me. Mr. Liu, I've heard your stories. Unfortunately, this isn't one of them. No need to say more. I removed the necklace and tossed it to Liu Shirqing. I, Reborn, no longer needed it, since it was your gift. Now it should return to its original owner. Liu Shirqing hurriedly picked up the necklace, unceremoniously wiping it clean with his white cuff. Opening the locket, he froze for a moment. What's this? A ticket refund? You lied to me. You never planned to go abroad, did you? I sighed. A heavy curtain of rain and fog hung between us. I did think about it once, but now, I truly am free of burdens. Liu Shirqing clenched the necklace, his wet hair plastered over bloodshot eyes. From then on, I devoted myself to expanding and strengthening the embroidery workshop. During the war, I sheltered widowed women. I taught them embroidery to support their families. Sue's embroidery workshop grew more renowned. Eventually, our products were even included as state gifts to the British royal family. Over the years, I often read the newspapers, seeing Liu Shirqing upright and honorable, earning glory for our country. Each time, I breathed a sigh of relief. Fearing that the butterfly effect I caused might have an impact, I thought that I had no further ties with Liu Shirqing, until one late night. A call from the presidential office came. His secretary was on the line. Mr. Liu Shirqing was in a plane accident, his life hanging by a thread. He keeps uttering your name. Please come quickly. After hanging up, I immediately set out. Government vehicles picked me up at the agreed location. When I arrived, The hospital corridor was already filled with familiar faces from newspapers and business dinners. Lu Shiqing, with tubes all over him, his neatly combed hair from the newspapers now in disarray across his forehead, seeing me, a spark lit up in his dark eyes. "Yu Jun, you came after all." I sat by his bedside, silent for a long moment before speaking. "Shiqing, you need to live. Your parents were just talking about you yesterday, they miss you." Under the blanket, his chest heaved as Lu Shiqing asked in a low voice, "And you?" My gaze passed over him, resting on the heart rate monitor on the other side. Softly, I spoke, "Mr. Diplomat, more than anyone, I want you to live." Suddenly, Lu Shiqing grasped my hand, his grip strong. "I promise you, I will live. Yu Jun, will you come again?" Looking into his reddened eyes, I suddenly remembered something and asked, "What about Tang Xuanyi?" Lu Shiqing's voice turned indifferent, as if speaking of someone insignificant. "Why mention her? It seems she died in Paris 3 years ago." In this new life, Tang Xuanyi's fate remained unchanged. Afterward, I visited Lu Shiqing regularly, like clocking in for a job. I learned from others that over these years, Lu Shiqing returned to the country once a month amid his busy schedule. What was he doing? Opinions were divided. I recalled the familiar figure I saw outside the embroidery shop. Somewhat incredulous, on the day Lu Shiqing was discharged from the hospital, he resumed his role as a dashing diplomat. His personal secretary was tying his tie, and he turned his head, animatedly describing the future to me. "Yu Jun, how about I take you to England? I've planned our wedding. I want to ask the Earl to send a congratulatory letter." Shiqing, I couldn't help but interrupt him. "Don't come looking for me anymore." His posture wavered, and his smile turned into a straight line. "Why, you clearly care about me, don't you?" I sighed. "Shiqing, I want you to live more than anyone else." I sat down and told a story that spanned 60 years. After much persuasion, he finally believed me, but that was me in a past life. "Yu Jun, in this life, I only love you." He reached over the coffee table, grasping my arm, his gaze intense. I pushed his hand away. "The one who can't let go is me." He staggered and fell onto the couch. His complexion was ashen, like a dying man. "These days, I've been puzzled." Lu Shiqing, who was deeply in love with Tang Xuanyi, why in this life does he insist on me? Later I thought, for someone like Lu Shiqing, born into wealth and gifted, there was nothing he couldn't have. Thus, the more unobtainable something was, the more precious it became. He didn't love Tang Xuanyi, nor did he love me. He didn't understand that love is about connecting hearts after obtaining it. Walking out of the closely monitored private hospital, a car was already waiting outside. A man in a blue scholar's robe warmed my icy fingertips in his palm, his eyes filled with indescribable tenderness. "Quick, get in the car, I have prepared warm porridge for you." Yansheng and I were married for 60 years, in perfect harmony. Even in our old age, we still held hands and walked through the park. Whenever the mood struck, we would sing opera together, the music lingering, two people from an old era, still cherishing these old hobbies. So, when Yansheng got throat cancer, I was devastated. Passing by the same VIP ward, I heard a name that was both strange and familiar. What a pity. Sick and without a spouse to accompany him, I heard he never married, no children either. Ah. No matter how glorious in youth, to be lonely and childless in old age is indeed lamentable. Looking at the old man curled up in the hospital bed, frail and skeletal, I felt no stirrings in my heart. Later, news of Lu Shiqing's death reached me. According to gossip, his death was bizarre. A little boy pushed the door open to play, annoyed by his moaning while watching TV. He simply smothered him with a pillow. He suffocated to death. It was said that he kept calling out Yu Jun until his end, but no one responded. A few days later, a lawyer approached me, handing me 2 old necklaces. One necklace was empty, and the other contained a photo from my wedding. "Mr. Lu had no descendants, he left all his estate to you." I set up a historical and cultural heritage foundation in Lu Shiqing's name. My heart was devoid of any feelings. After all, the light boat had crossed heavy mountains.